Hey everyone, welcome back to my how to build a QAV210 series. In part 1 of the video, we basically did all the physical build on the quad. We mounted the ESCs onto the power distribution board, mounted the NAS32 on the bottom, and then set up the OSD or installed the OSD, and mounted the motors, the D4R2, and we connected our camera and video transmitter. The only thing physically left to do on this quad is to shrink up the ESCs, the heat shrinks on the ESCs. But before we can do that, we need to connect to Betaflight and test the motors. So in part 2 of this video, I'll show you how to flash your NAS32 with Betaflight, calibrate ESCs, test motors, and set up everything else in Betaflight or CleanFlight. And then we'll set up the OSD, and I'll show you how to program all the switches and set up your Taranis for RSSI. So for the people who got the kit, it'll come with this backup file folder right here. When you open it up, you'll have these files. This is your CleanFlight backup. This is for after you flash your NAS32 with Betaflight, you'll use this backup. This is a sound file for engine on. Some of the newer Taranis, they don't have the sound file. So if you don't have it, I'll show you how to put it in your Taranis later. And then this is for your OSD backup. If you're using a 3S setup, use this one. For 4S, use this one. I'll show you how to use this later. And then it'll come with 2 Taranis files. The difference is it depends on what firmware your Taranis is running. If you're running version 2.0 dot whatever, use this one. If you're using 2.1, use this one. The difference is on the 2.1, you have to do an extra step to make the RSSI show up in source. I'll show you all that later. So what you do is you take the memory card from the back of your Taranis and you plug it into your computer, and it'll look like this. So this is the files inside your Taranis. This is the images, firmwares, logs. You'll just be concerned with the models and the sounds. So you'll just open this folder up, and then you drag whatever version you're running on your Taranis. I'm using 2.0, so I'll just drag this one. I've already done it in here. Just drag it in there, and I'll show you how to pull it up in Taranis later. And then for the sounds, for your engine on, you'll just go to sounds and then go here and then drag this file into here. I think I already have it. Yeah, so it's already in there. So that's it. So you just remove your memory card from the computer and plug it into your Taranis. So now we're going to set up the Taranis. So if you're using the kit and you drag the appropriate file into the Taranis memory card, this is what you do. Just turn it on.
To Free Sky Taranis.
0
dB.
You go to an empty slot, hold enter, and then just go restore model, and then just find that file that you just put into the memory card earlier. And that's it. And then you go back. Go select the model.
0 dB. Engine off.
And then that's it. Everything is already programmed for you. If you go down here, all your inputs are set up. This is your RSSI over here. Here's all your switches, RSSI setup, and all your sounds.
Engine on. Engine off.
And then this is RSSI value.
0 dB.
It's saying 0 right now because we have nothing hooked up. But if you're not using the file, I'll show you how to program everything. First, we're going to delete the model we just restored. So first, you have to get out of the model.
0 dB.
So delete this model. Okay, so go to an empty slot, hold enter, hit create model. So you got your model right there, hit page down, and then this model name, just name it whatever you want. I'm going to name it QAV210. Oops, I passed it. And then to get a capital, just hold enter. Okay, so we got our model name. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these switch alarm things, because if you don't turn these off, you get this.
Welcome to Free Sky Tyrannus. Throttle warning.
You get this annoying throttle
Switch
warning
warning.
thing, switch warning. So I'm going to turn that off. You can leave it on if you want, but I think it's annoying. Oops. So you have to go to each individual one of these and just turn it off. So now once you turn your Tyrannus back on, it's not going to have that annoying warning thing. Like that. Cool. So we're going to go back to where we were, and that's it for page 2. We're going to leave the binding part to later and when we connect it to our quad. But for now, we're going to set up our switches. Go back to this page and go to page, page 6. So page 6 is where you set up all your switches on the Tyrannus. Channels 1 through 4 you can't assign because they're reserved for flying the quad. But channel 5 is going to be auxiliary 1, channel 6 auxiliary 2, channel 7 auxiliary 3, and channel 8 is auxiliary 4. So first we're going to assign channel 5 to auxiliary 1, and I'm going to set it up to this switch right here, which is my flight modes. So to assign the switch, scroll down, hold enter, and then when it's flashing, just hit whatever switch you want to assign. So I assigned it to the SE switch because I find that it's easier to hit this switch right here when you're flying to change the modes. And then get out of this, go to the next one, hold enter, and then I'm going to assign the SD switch for arm, disarm, and buzzer. So you can see when I didn't set it. There. Now it's showing SD. And then, since we're already here, I'm going to assign channel 7 to this switch right here, which I'm going to assign to air mode, and I'll talk about that later when we're in beta flight. So I'm just going to go ahead and assign that. And then that's it for your switches. So now we're going to set up the Tyrannus for RSSI. So go to page 5, go to 8 right here, hold enter, and then I'm just going to name this RSSI just to make it less confusing. Okay, so RSSI, and then for the source, you're going to hold enter, and then just go find RSSI. RSSI right there. And then you're going to go down to scale and just change scale to 100. Okay, so get out of this screen and then go to page 6, go down to channel 8, hold enter, and then make sure your source is showing RSSI. Leave the weight at 100, and then, or actually, change the weight to 200. And then the offset to negative 100. Okay, so now your Tyrannus is set up for RSSI. So next thing we're going to do is we're just going to assign some sounds to our switches. I'm going to make this when you arm the quad, say engine on, and then when you put it in the middle, say engine off. And then I'm going to assign this switch right here to read out our RSSI. So go down to page, go page 11. Right here, and then hit enter. Go here, and then when it's flashing, you want to assign the switch to the position where you want it to read out the sound. So I'm just gonna push up, enter, and then go here and go play value or play track. Play track, and then oops, and then find engine on. Cool. So now when we switch it up,
Engine on.
it says engine on, and then I'm gonna set the next one to have it in the
engine on.
In the middle position like that. So that'll be engine off. So go here, oops, and go play track again, and then go find engine off. So when I set it, engine on,
engine off.
engine off. Cool. And then now I'm gonna set this one to this switch right here. And make sure when you do it, it shows SH up. So you might have to hit this twice. And then go here and find play value. And then go, oops, and then find RSSI. Not IRSSI, not this one, but just keep going. There'll be another one that says RSSI. Right there. So when you hit the switch,
0 dB.
It'll tell you the RSSI of your D4R2. Right now it's saying 0 because we have nothing connected. So that's basically it for setting up the Taranis. Next we're gonna flash our NAS32 with Betaflight. Okay, so before we connect to CleanFlight, we're just gonna go ahead and bind our D4R2 to our transmitter. So the way you do that is you go to menu, you scroll down, and then you go to right here. So you're gonna change D16 to D8, enter, and then scroll down to bind. And then when you hit bind, it's gonna start beeping. And then the way you bind the D4R2 is you hold the failsafe button down while powering up the quad at the same time. So I'm gonna go bind, start beeping, push down this button, and then plug in the battery. And let go, exit, and then when we bind back up, your LED is green. I don't know if you can see that, so that means we're bound. Okay, so next we're gonna flash our NAS32 with Betaflight. So Betaflight is basically a tuned version of CleanFlight. I'm not smart enough to know all the technical stuff about Betaflight, but I just know that it flies way better than regular CleanFlight. So this is actually my 4th or 5th time filming this segment. The other ones I filmed because I was downloading things on my computer while doing this screen recording at the same time. It was messing up the audio. So this time I'm just gonna kind of run through the procedure to flash Betaflight, but I'm not actually gonna show you how to download it because it's gonna screw up my computer. So first you need to download and install Chrome over here. So if you click that, it's going to bring you to Chrome. Just download and install that. And then next, after you have Chrome downloaded, go here and type CleanFlight configurator right there. And then you're going to, well, I already have it installed because I'm not going to show you the install. It'll screw up my computer. But it should say add app. When you click that, it'll add Chrome right here. So I'm going to just go ahead and pull this up. Okay, and then before you can connect your NAS32 to CleanFlight, you have to download the correct VCP driver for your computer. So just go to this link, and then if you're using Windows, just use one of the Windows drivers. But I'm using Mac, so I'm not going to show you how to do that because it'll mess up again. And then once you have your VCP driver downloaded, you need to go download the hex code for Betaflight. So just go here, And then this seems to be the most recent version, so I'm just going to use this one. And then just scroll down till you see Nays Hexed. And when you click that, it's going to download into wherever you have your downloads. So I already moved my hex code over here, so later on when we need it, it'll be easy to find. So I'm going to close this. So once you have these downloaded, you can go flash Betaflight on your computer, or I mean on your NAS32. So go to CleanFlight, and notice here right now the COM port shows Bluetooth whatever. Watch when I plug in my USB. Oh, before you plug in, make sure your switch is moved towards the USB port like that. Because if you don't do that, you won't be able to connect. So watch right here when I plug it in. You see it change to the Scilabs port. If you don't see this, you're not going to be able to connect to CleanFlight. One of the things I noticed is that if I have my USB connected, and then sometimes if I have it connected and then open CleanFlight, I won't be able to see this port. So what I have to do is have this unplugged, and then open my CleanFlight, and then plug it in, and then this Scilabs COM port will show up. So once you're here, go here, and then click Load Firmware Local, and then you're just going to go find that file for the hex code you downloaded earlier for Betaflight. So I have it on my desktop right there. Click Open, and then you're just going to hit Flash Firmware. Okay, once you see programming successful, you got Betaflight on your NAS32. So next, you just go click Connect, and then I'm just going to calibrate my accelerometer. When you do this, make sure your quad is completely flat on a flat surface. Okay, so for those of you who have the kit, after you flash your NAS32 with Betaflight, this is all you need to do. So just connect, and then just go restore, and then go into that folder with all those backup files, and then just select the CleanFlight backup, and then just hit open, and then just let it do its thing. You'll see this reboot and start flashing, and then once you have that done, all the settings are already done for you. Right here, all these are set. The only thing you have to do is in this tab, just calibrate your accelerometer, and then you have to calibrate your motors. That's all you have to do. Everything else is already set for you. Okay, so now we're in the configurations tab. Before we get started, this is by no means a in-depth setup on CleanFlight. This is just a setup to get you started. Once you learn the basics and start flying for yourself, you can tweak the settings for whatever you like. So this is just a nice basic setup for CleanFlight. Okay, so if this is your first time flying, or if this is your first quad, I would enable motor stop. So motor stop is basically when you first arm your quad, your propellers aren't going to spin up automatically. We'll talk about air mode and why you would want to disable this later on. And then for Betaflight, you want to disable one shot. You don't need it for Betaflight. And then for the minimum throttle, for now we're going to set it to around 1035 or something. And then max throttle, we're going to change to 2000. And then make sure you're on X quad, because this is the pattern we're running. It's motor 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then for the board alignment, since we're running a NAS32 revision 6 with the USB pointing to the left, that means the quad is, the NAS32 is pointing backwards, so the arrow is pointing towards the back. So for that, you have to change the yaw alignment to 180. If you don't do that, your quad's going to flip like crazy when you try to take off. And then you're going to select RX PPM, because we're running the D4R2 in PPM mode. And then you want to enable VBAT. So VBAT is basically a low battery voltage warning. and these are the thresholds. I usually like to set mine to 3.4 or something like that. These numbers are for per cell. So if you set it at 3.4 and you're running a 3 cell, then your battery is going to run, your battery is going to, or I mean your beeper, your buzzer is going to start beeping when the battery runs to 10.2 volts, because 3 times 3.4 is 10.2. Okay, and then you're going to don't check this one. Leave this one disabled, because if you do, your RSSI won't work. So hit save and reboot. Okay, so now we're in the PIDs tab. This is the beauty of Betaflight. Even with the default PIDs here, your quad is going to fly really well. But I just like to change a couple little things. Like, this is just a good starting point. I usually change this to like 3.8. Drop the PIDs down a little bit to smooth it out, just a touch. I like to have yaw at like 7.5 or something like that. And then the default rates are at 0, which is a little bit too low. I usually like to start around like 0.3 or something like that. 0.3, 0.2 is a good starting point. Once you start flying around, you'll know better. If you want to do like really tight rolls, change this to like 0.5. You'll like roll in place. But the higher you go, the more responsive your sticks are going to be. The lower it is, the more, the smoother it is, but less reactive. So you just start with like a 0.2, 0.3, and then just play around with it until you find something you like. Oops, this should be 3.8. And then hit save. Okay, so now we're in the receivers tab. So to have your receiver work, you need to have your battery plugged in. So first I'm going to turn on my transmitter.
0 dB.
And then I'm going to plug in my battery. And then you'll see right now that my controller is not working correctly. My throttle is on roll. That's because my channel map should be on this one. And then for the RSSI channel, we're going to change this to 8, or whatever you assign the RSSI to output on your Tyrannus, and hit save. Once you do that, you'll see my throttle is correct, my yaw, pitch, and roll, and my switches are over here. So that's all you really need to do on the receivers tab. Just hit save. Okay, so next we're going to set the modes on our quad. To set the mode for one of these functions, basically just hit add range and select the correct auxiliary you want. Since we set our arm switch to auxiliary 2, we're going to change it to this, and I want my up position to be armed.
Engine on.
So you see this little
Engine off.
little green thing moving
Engine
around.
on.
Just set the slider to that range that you want. And then for angle, this is a flight mode. I'm going to set my flight modes to this switch right here. So I'm going to hit add range, and it's already auxiliary 1. So I'm going to set the up position for angle. So angle is basically a flight mode it's a self-leveling flight mode with a limit on the angle. So in this one, if you're flying and you let go of your sticks, your quad is going to self-level. But then with that angle, it's not going to let you do flips or rolls or anything like that. But then horizon, I'm going to set in the middle. Horizon is like angle mode, where it's a self-leveling mode, but it doesn't have the limit on the angle. So in this one, it'll self-level, but you can still do flips and rolls and stuff like that. And then for down, I'm going to have that to be the rate mode. So if there's nothing assigned to the position, it's automatically the rate mode. And then since we're already here, we're just going to assign a switch for air mode. Well, I'll talk more about that later. So just go ahead. I'm going to set the up position for air mode. Oops, this is auxiliary 3. Up position is air mode. And then last thing we'll set is the beeper. And then I'm going to set my down position for beeper. And that's auxiliary 3. So you'll see this is down. Okay, and then just hit save and reboot. Okay, so next we're in the motors tab, and we're going to calibrate our motors and make sure everything is spinning in the correct direction. So to do that, make sure you do this section with the props off, because if your quad is on the table and your props are on, you can really hurt yourself. So make sure you turn your take your props off for this. So first we're going to calibrate the accelerometer. To do that, you just hit this motor test thing, and then you're going to move the slider all the way up. And then once you plug in your battery, the ESC or the motors are going to make a bunch of music. So while it's making that music, move the slider all the way down before the music stops. I'll show you what I mean. Move this down. Okay, so once the music stops, you can unplug, plug it back in, and then you can, when you move your slider up, they should all spin up at the same time. And if you want to fine-tune the increments, you can hold this button down and then use the up and down arrows to go up by 1 increment. So all my motors are spinning up at around 1026. So that is my min throttle. So I'm going to go back to this settings tab right here. And then I usually like to change the min throttle to like 5 to 10 above min throttle. So I'm going to change this to like 1030 or something. I think we can leave it at 1035. Same thing. Okay, save reboot, and then go back to the motors tab. Now we're going to make sure the motors are spinning in the correct direction. You can use this motor check thing again, and then you can individually slide the motors. So this is motor 1, motor 2, motor 3, motor 4, and you have to make sure that the motors are spinning in this direction of this diagram right here. Usually you can just make the motor spin, and you can kind of touch the motor and feel which way it's going. But for the video, I'm just going to stick a little piece of paper on here and I'll show you the motor direction. So motor 1 should be going clockwise, and it is. Motor 2 should be counterclockwise, and it is. Motor 3 is counter. And it is. And motor 4 should be clockwise. And it is. If you follow the diagram on the website, your motor should be correct. But for some reason, if the motors are spinning in the wrong direction, you just unsolder any 2 of the 3 motor wires and just flip them. So like here, you can see these 2 motors are going straight, and then these have 1 crossed. So when you cross the motor, it reverses the direction of the motor. Okay, so once you have your motors calibrated and make sure the directions are spinning correctly, that's pretty much it. You're done with CleanFlight. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the common problems I see people having, why people are having problems connecting their NACE32 to CleanFlight. Sometimes they don't have the correct VCP driver connected on the computer. So just go here and make sure you have the correct one downloaded for your computer, and then after you do that, it's a good idea to restart after you do that. And then another one is because they don't have the correct port. Let's see right here. Like sometimes it acts kind of weird. Sometimes if I have my NACE32 connected first and then I open up my my CleanFlight, I won't be able to see this Scilab's this little COM port thing. So it's a good idea to open up your CleanFlight first and then plug in your USB. And then sometimes it's just a bad USB cable. I get a lot of readers emailing me finding out that they couldn't connect. It was because their USB cable was bad or something. I don't know why. And then let's see what else. Oh yeah, another one is I even do this sometimes. Instead of connecting it to the NACE32 USB, I'll have it connected to the OS Dodgy, and that's not going to work. If you want to connect to your NAS32, you have to use the USB port on the NAS32, not on the OS.G. Okay, so before we get out of CleanFlight, I'm just going to talk about a feature in Betaflight called Air Mode. Air Mode is basically a setting or a mode in Betaflight that lets you cut the throttle on your quad but still have full control over your quad. Because normally if you have this motor stop enabled and you cut the throttle, the motors will literally just stop spinning and you have no control over your quad. And then there's like a 1 or 2 second delay before you can spin up the motors again, before you can throttle up. So the reason why you would want air mode is like if you do a lot of acrobatics and stuff, you can, you know, do a roll and hang upside down, cut the throttle, but you can still have control over your quad. So I'll just show you how to set up air mode. So to have air mode, you just turn off the motor stop, save and reboot, and then you have to set up a mode in your modes. So yeah, I have auxiliary 3 in the up position set up for air mode. Hit save. And then just one thing you have to be careful about air mode is like when you arm your quad, your motors are gonna just spin up automatically. And then also if you crash your quad, you can't just cut your throttle and then stop the motors. You have to cut your throttle and disarm your quad to make the motor stop spinning. So you can play around with that and see if you like it or not. Okay, so next we're going to set up our OSD board. So this is the third or fourth time I'm filming this segment also, because the other ones I try to show you how to download everything and the downloads were messing up my computer and the audio wasn't syncing. So this one I'm just going to quickly run through how to download this. I won't get into that much detail because I've already done 2 separate posts on how to set up this board. So we'll just do a quick run through. Okay, first you need to download the GUI for your board. So if your board is running 1.5, well, whatever firmware you're running, you need to download the configurator for that board. So if you're running 1.5, you need to download the 1.5. If you're using 1.2, then download the 1.2, whatever. So first, this seems like it's the most recent version, but I'm not sure if it supports Mac, so I'm just going to use this one because I know this one supports Mac. So click here and then just click source. When you click it, it's going to download. Let's see if I have it. Yeah, okay, I already have it. So once you click that, it's going to download this folder and then just open it up. Click GUI and then click the version you're using. If you're using Windows, just use Windows. If you're using Mac, just go Mac. I'm using Mac, so I'm going to go here. And then when you click that, it's going to open. Okay, so we can close this. Okay, and there's a couple more steps you have to do before you can connect. So we're just going to go close this. And then next, you have to go update your Java. I'm running Java 8 update 66, which was the most current version as of this video. And then after you download and install Java, you have to go to this page to verify your Java. So this is basically giving Java permission to be used on your computer. Also, make sure you already have the VCP driver downloaded for your computer. This is the same driver we used for the NAS32. So if you already downloaded it, you don't have to do it again. And then after you do all that, just go and restart your computer. And then once you do that, you can go back here. Okay, so one of the problems that I've seen people having is, I don't know if it's on everyone, but on mine, if I open up the GUI first and then try to plug in my USB, make sure your switch is moved towards the USB. If you watch this port right here, if I try to plug it in now, the Scilab port doesn't show up. So I found out that what I have to do is, with my GUI closed, USB first before I open up my GUI. Otherwise, if I you won't see this little Scilab thing. So if you don't see that, your board is not going to be able to connect. So once you have that, just click connect. And then you're in. Okay, so for those of you who are using the kit's gonna come with the backup files for the setup. So if you have that, just go up here to load, not upload. This is for your fonts. Just go to load, and then you're gonna go find that file where you have, let's see, it's on our desktop. So just open up this folder right here that has all your backup files. And then it's got two files for the OSDs. One's for 3S and one's for 4S. Since I'm using a 3S, I'm just going to open this one. And then just load it. And you'll see everything is already set up for you. The voltage adjust here, I'll show you how to do that later. This is where you calibrate the voltage in your OSD display. So this is like a little preview of all the things that you're going to have in your OSD. So if you're not using the kit, these are the things you need to set. Just turn on your main display voltage and turn off use FC main voltage. And then 200 is the voltage adjust. I'll show you that later. And then 3-cell or 4-cell, whatever you're running. And then voltage alarm is what you want this, voltage to start flashing. So that's the threshold. And then you're going to go down to RSSI. So turn on display RSSI and turn on use FC RSSI. Turn off PWM and then set the minimum to 0, max to 255. And then the RSSI alarm is whatever you want your RSSI to start flashing. So if it goes below 60, it'll start flashing. You can set this for whatever you want. And then all this other stuff, like all this is just preference. And then you just want to set your, your measurements, imperial. And then if you're using an NTSC camera, use this one. If you're using PAL, use this one. If you don't do that, you're not going to see video in your display. And then all this other stuff you can kind of just play around with to see what you want. And then once you do that, make sure you hit right. And then I'm going to close out. And then I'll just connect back in, make sure everything wrote onto the board. And you're done. So even if you have a problem connecting your board to your computer, next I'm going to show you a way where you don't even need to connect to your computer. You could do everything here through the OSD on your goggles with the Taranis. Okay, so when you first plug in your quad, this is what you're going to see in your OSD. At the top, you can see what firmware you're running. This one's running 1.5. And then to get into the menu with your quad disarmed, just go yaw right all the way and then pitch all the way up. And then this will bring you into the OSD menu. And then you're going to use the right stick to move the cursor around up, up, down, left, right, whatever. And then the left, right yaw is going to be used for making the adjustments. So this is how you set up the OSD through the Taranis and the goggles. Go in and change the number of cells you're running. And then for the main volts alarm, that's the threshold you want your low voltage to go off. So if you want it at 10.2, change that number to 10.2. And then the adjust voltage, this is where you calibrate the voltage in your display to match your actual battery. So just use a LiPo battery checker and check your voltage and just change that number until the display voltage matches your battery voltage. And this is for the RSSI. Turn on display RSSI and then turn on the use FC and then leave the PWM off. Set the RSSI max to 255 and the RSSI minimum to 0. So right now it's still showing 0 RSSI, but when we save and exit, you'll see the RSSI pop up right there. So that's pretty much it for the voltage and battery. So everything else on the display, you can go in through the OSD menu and turn off or turn on whatever you want to see in there. I'm going to leave the virtual horizon bar on. I'm going to turn off the sidebars, turn off the scrolling bars, and I'm going to turn the throttle on. That'll show you the percentage of throttle you're using. And then I'm going to turn off all the GPS stuff because I'm not using it. And then I'm going to change the units to imperial. And for the signal, if you're using an NTSC camera, turn that to NTSC. If you're using PAL, change it to PAL. If you don't have that set correctly, you're not going to see a display in your goggles. So that's pretty much it. That's how you set up your OSD through the OSD menu and your Taranis. Use this method if you're having problems connecting your OSD to your computer. Okay, so once you have your NACE32 and your OSD board set up, we're pretty much done with the programming part. We've already made sure all the motors are spinning in the correct direction and they're the correct channels 1, 2, 3, and 4. So next we can shrink up the heat shrinks on the ESCs. So I'm just going to do that real quick. Okay, so now that we got our ESCs all shrunk up, next we're going to secure the OSD board. This is a pretty common problem that I see. Instead of using like a little hex driver like this to mount the hex nuts on the standoffs, people try to use pliers, and then when sometimes they'll slip when they're tightening it, they'll knock off this tiny little resistor right here. Can you see? I don't know if you can see that, but if you knock that off, you're not going to get video in your goggles. You'll be able to see the OSD overlay, you know, like RSSI voltage and stuff like that, but you won't see anything from your camera. If you have that problem, just check this little resistor right here. You probably knocked it off or it's broken or something. So just use a little hex nut like this, a driver, tighten it. Okay, so next we're going to mount the VTX onto the quad. I designed this little brace right here specifically for this transmitter. It's basically a SMA connector brace. So you're just gonna slip the transmitter on like that, and then just put a zip tie around it to secure the antenna. So what this does is basically it just strengthens the connection between on the SMA and the circuit board on the video transmitter. I'm just gonna clip this off. So it's just going to sit like that, and then to mount this, you just slide this onto the posts. And with this, you really don't need any other kind of zip tie to mount the video transmitter. This thing sits pretty secure right here. And then when you're mounting the cables to the OSD board, make sure you mount it correctly. You can see over here it says VTX on this side, and then camera on this side, and then it goes signal, power, ground for the video transmitter, and then it goes ground, power, signal for the camera. So just make sure you hook this up correctly. I have mine set up like this. And then next I'm just gonna mount the camera that we made in part 1 of the video. And then same thing, it's going to go ground, power, signal. And then I'll just put the top plate. When you're putting this, make sure you put this the circle side on the SMA. And then this little cutout side is for the battery. Okay, so this is the quad all built and ready to fly. Last thing you have to do is just mount the antenna tubes right here into the little tubes right there. That's pretty self-explanatory. I won't show you how to do that. So let's see how much it weighs. So this weighs 320 grams, and then versus a QAV210 which is about 360 grams. So the QAV210 is about was it 40 grams lighter than the 250, and then here they are side by side. So you can see the 250 is quite a bit larger than the 210. So that's pretty much it for the build. I won't be making any flying videos with this one because I smashed both of my GoPros and I have nothing to record on. So maybe in the future, after I get another GoPro, I'll make a video. Okay, so if you have any questions about the build, you can send me a note through the contact form on my website. But when you send the note, try to be as specific as possible about the problem you're having. Because if you only tell me the problem, I can't help you troubleshoot. I need to know things like what you're using, how you set it up, what parts you're using, the problem, what steps you took to try to fix the problem. Because without this kind of information, I can't help you troubleshoot. So I hope you found these two videos helpful, and as always, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.